We're talking again with Congressman Rick Crawford. Rick, what can you tell us about China? Is China a threat to the United States of America economically, militarily?
Absolutely. And I think we should be rejecting everything related to China as strongly as we can. They're trying to impact every aspect of our life. Their first stated goal is to replace the United States as the preeminent economy in the world. It's called the One Belt, One Road Initiative, and it's the Made in China 2025 initiative. And these are stated goals of the Chinese. What the One Belt, One Road initiative is essentially reconstituting the Silk Road. If you remember back in history, Marco Polo era, when they discovered China, and that's when China sort of became a much sought-after destination for merchants, and they were doing business in China, and then the Silk Road became a prominent route from Europe to China. Well, what they're trying to do is a 21st century Silk Road in their One Belt, One Road initiative. They are aggressively buying influence in every country they operate. And they promise jobs, and here's what happens when they promise jobs. They go into a place where they're promising to bring in 500 jobs. Okay, that sounds really good, except they bring in 500 Chinese people, and they fill the jobs. And then they kind of live in a closed community, and that they don't go out and empower, and create economic impact. It's all sort of a closed cell. This has happened everywhere they've operated across the country. They go in most recently in places like Costa Rica, and they say, we want you to expel your Taiwanese diplomats. And the Costa Ricans push back, and they say, what is it going to take to get you to expel the Taiwanese diplomats? And the Costa Ricans were bought off with a soccer stadium. So this is the kind of thing that they do. And then they go in and they promise to build infrastructure. Okay, they build infrastructure, but they're doing it for their own purposes, not to empower an economy of a country like, say, for example, Kenya or Mozambique or Uganda or Nicaragua, for example. They do that for their own interest. And the last thing we need to do is be laying down the welcome mat and saying, come on in, China. The other thing is that we had 5 university researchers that were caught up, I think, were indicted on federal charges of espionage here in Arkansas.
Yeah, they were trying to steal our rice technology, or they did steal it, I think, from Stuttgart.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what they do. They lie, cheat, steal, forced technology transfers, theft of intellectual property, these joint ventures that they set up that are designed for them to get our technical information so they can counterfeit our products and then flood the market with a cheaper version of what we're trying to build. And that creates a competition problem. Most recently, if you see what's happening in the soybean market, this is more related to China's misreporting, deliberate misreporting. So what happens is they go in and they don't report accurately carryover stocks from the previous year, and then they overstate their demand, and so then, of course, the market responds in that they plant more soybeans. They do this deliberately to depress the price. They run the price down, they short the market, and then they've got a depressed cash market as well. They know exactly what they're doing. That has contributed to the decline in soybean prices more than anything. And then, of course, now we're dealing with the weather and the discounts associated with damaged crop due to weather. That has nothing to do with anything else other than just Mother Nature. But what's exacerbating that problem is the fact that China does not accurately report their numbers. They do it for effect. They're trying to drive down the price of soybeans because they have to have a set number. And then they overstate their demand because that alters the supply picture. That makes farmers say, well, we better plant more soybeans because China's the 60% of our export market. So then they plant more soybeans based on faulty information, and then they come back months later and go, oh, yeah, we really don't need that many, and so prices go down. That's the whole point of why the WTO exists, is to prevent this kind of behavior, and yet the WTO gives them a pass every time. They get developing nation status as opposed to a developed nation. They're investing billions of dollars globally. They're a developed nation. If you can invest the kind of money that they're investing, they don't need that kind of protection.
What do you think? So what would the solution be? I mean, does there just need to be some national policy? I mean, I know Donald Trump is really taking the bull by the horns here with the tariffs, and that's a good thing. But what needs to happen? I mean, does there need to be just a formal declaration of? And I know Vice President Pence basically made that declaration a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they need to be called out globally for what they're doing. This doesn't just impact the United States. It impacts other countries around the globe. But because we are such a preeminent economy, in fact, now ranked number one, the most productive economy in the world, since 2008. You do the math and see how this happened. But since 2008, we've not had that ranking. We do now under this president. So, the economy in the United States is back on track, and we're going in the right direction. But we have to play hardball with China, and this is not a trade war that just started back in May. This is something that's been going on for 20 years. The Chinese have been taking advantage of every trading partner they engage with for decades. They are cheaters, liars, and thieves. I'm sorry, they just are, and we have to understand that. And if you go into any kind of engagement with China without knowing that as a baseline, you're asking for trouble. And we don't need to be bringing Chinese entities in here and expecting that it's going to yield positive results over time, because it's a big sham.
Congressman Rick Crawford, it's always great to talk to you, sir. I appreciate it. Best of luck to you in your re-election bid, and we'll have you on again soon, and we'll hopefully it will be. You're going to win, and it's going to be a victory celebration. So you have a great weekend, okay?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right.